on up, yeah. Let's give them a hand as they come on up. We'll let you get settled with all your accoutrements. So those are some very different and fun shows. I want to go down first and just have you guys introduce yourself and the show that you worked on.
Hello. Hi, guys. I'm Michael Donovan. We're talking about the shows we were nominated for.
Yeah, the show that you worked on.
Hair at the Hollywood Bowl, which was kind of fun.
We'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's go, Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Lipari. I did Spring Awakening.
Last but not least.
Mark Simon, I did the other two.
Nice. And we should mention, Beth, that you had a casting partner in your production?
Yes, oh my gosh, not to be forgotten at all. Bruce H. Newsberg, he just couldn't be here tonight, but he's completely 100% partner in Spring Awakening, and I couldn't
Me
be
too.
Yep,
And Margie Simkin and I co-cast Hair at the Bowl.
So yeah. So, and she couldn't be here, and she was bummed because she wanted to as well. So let's just go start with you, Michael, and just kind of talk a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about you for those who may not know.
Sure.
How'd you get to where you are?
Okay, I was an actor for a long time and a director, and I got into casting through my directing. I directed a play in Hollywood that Beth Holmes, you guys know Beth Holmes, commercial casting director? Beth Holmes came to see and came backstage and said, I love the direction. Would you be interested in directing casting sessions? No idea what she was talking about, okay? But I said, of course, sure. You know, it's money. I'm an actor, of course. And then that's kind of how it started. And I started with commercials with Beth Holmes, and then with Megan Foley, and then went out on my own and started casting theatrically. And then there was a huge commercial strike, remember, in the late 90s? When was that, 97, 98, something like that? And somebody said, you want to cast a play? And that was my whole background. And that's where it started. And it's been, I always say it's a locomotive on a fast track that I just had to get out of the way. This career just came at me, so it's been great.
Nice, excellent. Beth?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Beth. I come from Manhattan, New York. I was, go Manhattan.
New York too, New York as well.
I was a Broadway performer, so it's really weird. We should date.
We should.
And I left there, and I came out here to compose music for film, and I got knocked up. And I needed health insurance, and TV and film seemed like a good way to go. I ended up in Bruce's office. And I've just been doing TV and film mainly, but my love is theater. It always has been. And so I'm thrilled to be here this evening.
Nice.
I'll be quick. I produced 3 shows. The first one was off-Broadway and lost $250,000. The second one was on Broadway, and it was a big hit and lost $900,000. And then I produced a musical in London that never quite got capitalized. I needed a job, so I literally went to work for the casting directors who I had paid weekly over the course of several years, and discovered that I just adored it. It's a good job if you like dealing with people. And I think that's the common denominator with any casting director.
The good ones.
Yes. You have to love dealing with people. And as long as that still is the case, I'll do it until I can't.
Yep.
I want to piggyback on that. Mark, what made the transition out of LA from New York? What was that for you?
It was actually a very innocent situation. I was looking for a new adventure. I mean, I could have stayed in New York the rest of my life. I had a beautiful office and great clients, and I was making money and had fun. But I thought, you know what? I want to do something else. It did not have to do with casting, and it did not have to be Los Angeles. And, of course, look where I ended up. There are definitely, and I think you both will agree, there are challenges to casting theater here that are very, very tough compared to other markets in the country.
Most certainly.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially in a market because if you're in TV film market, which is really what LA is, and that's where the money is, and it's all about the money at the end of the day, no matter what business you're in, it's not easy. I know for Spring Awakening, I got to offer the actors a whole $25 a week. It was great. They were like, yes, I can't wait to learn sign language and make $25 a week. Right?
Yeah.
It was exciting times for them.
Well, it's an interesting situation because I think that when you make that phone call and say you've got a job, it's great for all of us.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter whether it's $25 or $2,500.
If you get to the actor. The problem is that we have to get past your agents. That's the biggest
the
thing.
thing.
Your agents who don't want you to do theater because they're not making any money, and so they make it very difficult for us sometimes,
Most
shall we
certainly.
say.
What do you think?
So,
Yeah.
25 bucks.
Michael and Beth, I want to get back to the idea of you guys transitioning from being actors, because sometimes we talk to actors. Actors Fund handles this a lot, where they're like, okay, maybe the acting career isn't where I want it to be, or I just want to try something else, or just get inspired. What made you say yes to casting and maybe putting the acting thing aside, and what
for
what
me,
was that for you?
I never saw this career as even an option. I had no idea really what this career was.
Yeah, I didn't even start liking it till a couple weeks ago. I was kind of like, no, I'm just kidding. But no, like acting-wise, I knew I wasn't an actor. Like I was on stage and I took a bow in New York. I mean, I was on Broadway and stuff, and I'm honored. But I just knew that was not where I knew I was supposed to be there for that moment, not forever, not for eternity.
I don't think I knew that. I think that for me, it was just kind of a gradual transition where this career came to me that I didn't seek, and I found myself being pulled towards it. I'd be on auditions and be thinking about what was going on in my casting office, and I thought, oh, I got to pay attention to that. Yeah. And so that's kind of where it ended up, and absolutely no regrets whatsoever. And I read with actors every day, so I still get to act, so which is really fun for me. So I'm not one of these casting directors that lets other readers, I mean, well, mostly anyway. I mean, it's fun to read with actors. I love doing it. So.
It's great training to be an actor before you go into casting.
Oh, yeah. It makes you empathetic and sympathetic.
Also good with script analysis.
Yep.
Which is the whole key as an actor, you know. I always think actors just get totally tripped up beforehand, but the whole thing is, it's just, you never want to lose your power before going into a room. I think it's so easy and so hard, and even with theater, it's really weird out here. Because I see a lot of theater people who've been going to film, and we were talking about subtleties. The subtlety, right, that we were going to want to hit and address, which was, you know, there is a subtlety between the theater and the film and the TV, and it's not always easy. And some people just have a fluidity with it.
And I think there are a lot of people who resist a theater actor when hiring them for film or television because they perceive them as, oh, they're too big.
Yeah.
That's such bullshit. Okay, can we just get over it, people? Okay, I think you're good enough actors to adjust for whatever the medium is, right? And thank you.
Clap that out.
No, I do.
They also, the thing that I always tell actors is that, you know, you're always told do less, do less, do less. Well, in doing less, I think that you miss some really wonderful things, you know? But I think if you condense, you're still doing all those brilliant things. You're just doing it in a different way, you know? So don't chop things away, you know? Do all those wonderful colors that you bring to a theater performance. Just find a way to bring it in a bit more, and I think it's fine, so.
And I would love to elaborate a little bit on that. Is it the idea of, as an actor, who you're reaching distance-wise, and maybe if you're bringing it in more, it becomes all that feelings, energy, emotions, intentions, objectives, just the distance you're reaching with a person potentially?
Well, there's a lot of it. I think it's, you know, it's projection. It's about filling an 800-seat theater. It's, you know, all those things which just automatically make it a much more huge performance, which you don't need to do for the camera because, you know, the camera's here. I don't know. That's probably a 6-week discussion to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Actually, yeah.
I think it's all about toning. Think like, you know, writing is writing. You know, if there's sketch, there's still a lot of things in TV and film that are very much theater and related to theater. I do a lot of weird comedies that, you know, like today someone was fucking Billy Bob Thornton on a chair and you're like, wow, like can't really play that too subtle. I'm really serious. Like that was my auditions all day for 6 hours. It's been fun. I definitely need a drink, but you know, there's not subtlety in that. And I'm just saying, like those are like I would love to find theater people for that, and that's a really good. There's also sketch. I just think it's tone of every project is different now. I think we're just in a crazy world of TV. I think it's so exciting.
I also think I always refer to the comment that Lawrence Fishburne made years ago when he was getting his NAACP award, and he stood up in Los Angeles and said that in his opinion, an actor who hasn't trod the boards is not an actor. And I thought, wow, well, that's a pretty heavy-duty thing to say, you know? But so when I'm casting film or television, I still love a theater-trained actor.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want somebody with serious chops, you know? So I know
always
that.
defined because people out here are like, who are they?
I know.
They never
yeah,
see
my
theater. You're like,
God.
oh, you didn't see
Wow.
Broadway for the last 10 years?
What is this thing, theater?
We're going to talk a little bit about the shows specifically, and then we'll get into some more of the general questions, and we have some audience questions already. Let's start with hair a little bit. It's a unique process.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what that process is, so for those who don't know.
Well, I do the musical at the Bowl every year. I've done, I think 9 years, and it's an amazing thing to do because it's a large cast. It's usually somewhere in the 24-ish range, and so we find out. I'll probably know like in about a month or two what they've decided for the summer, and then it's a long process. Margie Simkin usually goes after the name talent, and then I go after everybody else, and I occasionally provide some of the names as well. But and it's hair particularly was really interesting because of all the nudity and all kinds of stuff. So those were fun auditions. But it's a pretty fast and furious couple of weeks in which we see. I don't even know how many people we saw this year. I think it was 700 people we auditioned, something crazy like that. I think it was about that. Yeah, because the open calls are so well attended for these musicals. Yeah, they're huge, huge.
Michael, is it a favored nations deal as far as salaries?
Not with the celebrities, no. No, but for the ensemble, yes.
What kind of a contract is it?
It's a WCLO, some
West
special
Coast Civil
contract.
Light
Yeah,
Opera.
yeah, some special contract that they have with the Bowl. That's unique to the Bowl. So.
And what's their rehearsal process like?
Oh
'Cause
my
it's
God,
only a
it's crazy.
weekend.
10 days.
Crazy.
It's 10 days. 10 days.
And then tell them how long the performance is.
And then there's 3 shows.
Only 3 shows.
3 shows.
I think I did Camelot there.
Oh, it's crazy. And then the thing about it is, in 3 shows, there's like, you're going to perform for about 50,000 people. There's really no venue in the world that in 3 performances for theater anyway that you perform for 50,000 people. So it's crazy. And the other thing too is that the first time you're performing under the lights is the first time you do it, because there's things in the Bowl every night. So there's no night that's free in which you can go on stage and see what the lights are like. So that's crazy too. So it's I still remember Jessica Keenan Wynn, who's currently on Broadway and Beautiful, did the Star Spangled Banner a couple of years back, and she goes running out on stage and she goes, and there's 17,000 people, and it's like, it's
Truly
it's
a sea of
wild.
people.
Yeah. If you've never been on the stage of the Hollywood Bowl, just go over and do it, just to stand there and see just how enormous that audience is. It's pretty cool.
It's amazing to be in the audience.
It's totally amazing to be in the audience. Yeah, it's really, and it's fun, and for some reason this thing they refer to it as concert presentation, which is so ridiculous. It is a fully staged, fully choreographed, it's a full production that they put up in 10 days. It's
You
crazy.
must have to look for good sports,
Yes, yes.
sort of people who fit into the specific circumstances
Yeah.
of this adventure.
Yeah, and a lot of times with the stars, that maybe they'll go after somebody who's done it before, obviously, because that's a shorthand kind of thing. But I would say, looking back, most of our shows have been people who have not done the show before. So,
Yeah. So I was going to just ask that with your ensemble, because with 10 days to get someone who knows the show.
Yeah. Chicago, the choreography is so specific that he went back and pulled a lot of people who had done it before. So you pretty much have to. But other shows, no. Hair was a lot of young people. I teach at UCLA, so I have an amazing tradition that for the past, I think it's 6 years, I've had a student in every production
Oh my gosh, that's
at the
awesome.
Bowl. Isn't that
That's
awesome?
yeah, I love
That is
that.
so exciting to me. I can't even tell you. So it's really great. So.
Very cool. Let's transition into Spring Awakening, Beth. How did you just get involved with Deaf West Theater and that got on your plate?
Michael Arden's a dear friend of mine. He was the director, and I had done a show previously that he wrote. And they had a New York casting director who was like, hell no, I'm not casting that show out there. So she dropped out because it really was quite something. He wanted to rework the whole production. And by doing so, because it's a Deaf West production, I don't know if everyone's familiar, but to give you a brief introduction, so say my lead is a deaf actress, I needed to hire her as well as another hearing actress to actually speak and sing for her while she's signing. And at the same time, he then added that he wanted that person, everyone who was hearing, to play an instrument. So you either had to play guitar, so you were the orchestra on the stage as well. And I don't know if you know this about sign, but what I found so amazing about actors during this process is that if I say to you, Mark, let's walk down the street, and that's my line I'm learning for the week, and I have to learn how to sing, and I have to learn how to do the guitar and do that. But when you're signing, it's actually walk down the street, shall we go, Mark? And sometimes it doesn't even have any of the same words or it's really something. Like
It's idiomatic. It's not exact.
Not,
Right, yeah,
and not
yeah.
everyone can do it. And I think that's why this has really taken such a turn for people. Also, it was a great production to do for Deaf West. Any cause that has a disability, and Spring Awakening was about sexual repression by a great German author named Frank Wenderkin. And it was the exploitation and the silence between parents and their children regarding sex and other things that, rape and incest and things of that nature. So it really, really held a lot of weight coming from people who couldn't express themselves. It's been a ride. It's been the greatest privilege that I've ever had working in theater, and I've done things outside of casting, as I've mentioned, so I'm really honored.
And we should say that it won the Ovation Award on.
We are very lucky.
Yep,
Yes,
you
I
won
think
the
it
lead.
won many. So yeah, we're thrilled. We're thrilled.
Yeah.
It's on Broadway, and I went to opening, and my main thing is just the reason I'm so happy about it is because there's 27 cast members, and 20 were new to Broadway. They had never ever had that opportunity. And I met a wonderful woman named Ali Stroker, who is the first woman ever in the history of Broadway, 120 years that we've been doing it, to be in a wheelchair on Broadway, an actor, period.
Was it the woman who did it here?
It is. Her name's Ali Stroker. She came in, she glided in. She's been paraplegic since she was 4 years old. She's done nothing else. And she came not only with herself, but her instruments in a taxi. And she didn't get it because she was disabled. She got it because she was fucking exceptional. And
That's the first person in
first
a chair
person
on
in
Broadway?
ever.
That's more shocking than anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, right, it's really funny.
Yeah.
And I'll just end here because I don't want to take up too much time. I never know. But I will say this. My favorite part of it as well, is this live? I hope I don't upset my producers, but I think it's a good story. There was a fight for Ali to be in the show because they were dealing with a deaf ensemble, and the deaf community doesn't consider themselves disabled.
Absolutely not.
Nor should they. But guess what? Either does Ali. So I think if we have a new perception of how we can maybe change things through casting, it can maybe start with labels and all of that stuff. Also, there's a really great new movie coming out called Becoming Bulletproof. It's about a Western with all people who are disabled that a filmmaker put together of all these amazing actors. You have to go see it and support it. Thank you. I'm just kidding.
It's great. Beth, I'm not going to have you. I have a couple more show questions. I just wanted, that sounded like a new process for you.
Yes.
So talk about, what did you learn
I
as
just
a
wanted
casting director?
raw talent. That's what I knew.
Yeah.
I never had seen Spring Awakening. I didn't want to see Spring Awakening. I just wanted the strongest, best actors. I don't care about resume, and I don't care about what you've done before, and I really don't care what you're going to do after. I care about what we're here to do together for that moment, and that's what's most important to me. And I really try to keep as much integrity and try to have as much voice as I can without pissing people off. It's a tact game. You have to play it well, or else you'll get nowhere. So I just want to reiterate again how special actors are and how important it is to just keep going. Everyone's at a different level, and I think that there can be some really evil people out there, but I find that the majority are awesome. So, I mean, we could talk all day about the evil people, but I prefer to talk about the people who actually give a shit. There's a ton.
Yep.
Clap that out. Yeah. For those who don't know, Deaf West is 99-seat theater, which
99 seat.
is no money for anybody.
That's right.
So talk about, from your guys' perspective, because Michael, you've done 99-seat theater as well.
Ton of it.
And Mark, I think you have, maybe not, I don't know. But anyways.
Try not to.
Try not to. Why do you do it? Why do you still do it? Why is it?
I think it's incredibly important to support new works, to give actors opportunities to play roles they wouldn't necessarily be considered for. I think it's an amazing opportunity for new writers, new directors, new producers to take risks in a less fiscally ridiculous situation, and I think that Equity's fighting it is unconscionable. And the way they're doing it, I think, is absolutely outrageous. And I think this absolutely needs to be fought by any person who cares about theater at all. Okay?
Agreed.
Yeah. Beth,
Yeah, there's not much to add there. He said
can you
it
just
all.
pull up your mic?
Yeah, sure. There's not much to add there. I mean, we just need it. We need it. I mean, we need it as much as it's like anything else. It's just kind of stupid. It's
the
just
thing-
politics. It's bullshit. No
it
one
is.
really knows. They don't understand. They don't understand the creativity that they're cutting.
They don't.
You're not going to win that fight.
And the math simply doesn't make sense. I mean, it's if anybody's worked in 99C, you guys know that most houses are 60 seats, okay? And then you gold starred half of those, okay? And then you comped another 10, and so by the time you're done, nobody's making any money. Where this myth is that they're making money is so ridiculous, and so for you to expect to get paid money, it's like if you don't want to do 99C, then don't do it. It's very simple. I get it.
Right.
If you can't afford to do it,
Right.
don't do it.
It's a great platform,
Yeah,
right?
right,
It's a
it's
great place
exactly.
to have a format and a platform for people that can't afford other platforms.
Right.
And formats here. It's that simple. And if you take it away, you lose that format, you lose that platform, and the most important thing you lose is the voices.
Yep.
Which is, that's the most important thing we have as artists and creatives is a voice.
And I think it's the most important component of theater in this market. It's the lab. It's the discovery process. It's the place where you can take a risk, and it's affordable for the audience.
Right. Right. And let's point out, 99-seat shows end up on Broadway.
Yeah. And it's also creative for you guys because
it's very creative.
you get to do a show that you probably would have never done before if it was a bigger house and stuff with deaf actors and so it's creative for everyone and experimental.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest that we do, and we get paid the least for it, just like you guys do. So, could I afford to do just that? No, absolutely not. I couldn't. But you probably can't either. So I do some of them, and I'm lucky to work with some terrific directors, and who then go on to other better paying things, and then hire me when they go on to better paying things, the same things that you guys do. So I think it's an opportunity for all of us to grow and learn. And if it goes away, it would be very, very sad. Very sad.
Mark, let's talk
It's
about.
hard to believe, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how it really will affect.
Yeah. I
A
mean,
lot
we're talking
of
about
things.
people who built theaters around a contract that Equity designed. Okay, and then you just take it away? Does that really seem right? I don't know. So I think maybe there's a middle ground somewhere. Maybe that's what we need to find. Hopefully, after the recent news events that I probably shouldn't talk about too much,
Okay.
there will be a middle ground that they'll have to settle on. So we'll see.
On that note, if you don't know what this conversation's about, do your research and do become educated actors because that's hugely important. We're going to transition, Mark, into the shows that you worked on, the Butler
Right.
and Race.
Couldn't describe two opposite
Yeah.
experiences. Let me start with what the Butler saw. I mentioned that I did a play on Broadway that lost $900,000. That was also a Joe Wharton play called Loot. And although the fact that all my investors lost a lot of money, and it was mainly dentists who needed the write-off anyway, it was a great experience for me, and Joe Wharton became a part of my life, as did the director, John Tillinger. So fast forward to more years than I care to admit, and Joey Tillinger was going to direct another Joe Wharton play at the Taper. So I was thrilled. We had such a long-standing relationship. We had such a shorthand vocabulary. And if you know Wharton as a playwright, he's a farceur of a certain era that is long gone. And it was actually quite easy to cast because it was a whole cast of people who either were British or trained in Britain, who understood what we were talking about. And it was great fun to work on. I had some problems with the production, but we don't need to go into that now, but I was very, very proud of the cast. Race was tricky. Do you know Race?
Some people do. Maybe give them a little summary if they don't.
It's, it's about race. I know that sounds so obvious, but the auditions were tough. A lot of actors read the script and said, I can't spend 10 weeks on this material, which was sort of ugly. I disagree with DeWanda from the cast who said it's a comedy. I never found that aspect of it. Yes, did you laugh? Sometimes, yes. But a comedy, no. And it raised a lot of uncomfortable issues and made the whole process difficult. I mean, I think we came up with a top-notch cast. David Mamet is very involved, which is tricky in its own way because he will not come to auditions and only wants to hire actors he knows. But since I hadn't worked with him before, I wasn't sure how I would know who he knew. So we had a lot of very, very convoluted phone meetings. And in one case, we got around it by putting some actresses on tape. It was the one female role. The three men he knew or knew of or had some connection with, and had to approve it before we could go ahead and cast them. But I think both of them, and I think the work my colleagues did, points out to the fact that every time we start a project, and this is where we're totally parallel with actors, it's a different experience. Mm-hmm. There are no two projects are the same experience. We need, like you do, we need to have a very clear idea of why we're doing the show. Mm-hmm. You know, there are some directors that I would do anything on earth for. There are some plays that I would go to Iowa to do. There are opportunities to work on new material, but you have to be very clear at the outset why you're doing it. And I think that actors also have to have that same clear idea. Why are you coming to audition? The wrong answer is so I can meet Michael Donovan. Mm-hmm. The right answer is I want to do this Tennessee Williams play. I've always wanted to do it, and this is an opportunity.
We should talk about that really quickly, too. Going to an open call, which I encourage you to do, by the way.
Me too.
If you've been to open calls in New York, they're a zoo. They are not here, okay, for the most part. So people are passing up that opportunity regularly. But going to an open call just to be seen by Beth or Mark or whatever is a terrible idea, okay? Because all we do is think you don't have a clue about what you're right for. You know what I mean? If you're right for something, absolutely come. If I didn't bring you in, I always say, prove me wrong. I love that when somebody comes and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do this. Wonderful. That's great. So take advantage, but don't go just to be seen by one of us. It's a really bad idea. You put yourself in a negative light, not a positive light. Do you want to talk about diversity since that came up in casting?
You're reading my mind. So
See?
there
we
you
go. Right?
Talk,
With a panel of all white people.
Exactly.
Right.
Go, but you start the conversation, Michael. What would you like to say about diversity?
I have a beef. My beef is when I put out a breakdown that says all ethnicities, what do I get?
White people.
White people. For real, guys. All the time. And I've talked to some of my friends of color, and they go, oh, well, you have to be specific. You have to say African American. You have to say, Latin or Hispanic. It's like, I'm not joking. If I said all ethnicities, I really do mean all ethnicities. If the role has to be Caucasian or Asian or whatever, then I will say that it has to be that. If it doesn't say that, I really mean it. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Microphone, use your mic.
I do, in a sense. My thing is with TV, I know why a lot of agents don't. It's because they think that everybody says, when it says all ethnicities, that they have to say that. And so that they don't really believe it. And once they take a look at the script, if they see that it's not a multicultural or diverse kind of script, and it's written by a white guy about white people, and then they see it, they kind of know that they don't want their client to go down that road.
Okay,
right?
but then I will
agree.
But I will say to you that I did get into a fight with Equity. Actually, here we go again. About I put out. We were doing a show called Abigail 1702, and it's about the Crucible 10 years later. And Equity was insisting that I put all ethnicities, and I said, that's ridiculous. These are white people. It's Salem, Massachusetts. It's about one of the most famous characters in the American theater, from the Crucible. And anyway, I won that battle. But then when we did Fences, I put African American because it's an African American story. It'd be a little weird to have an Asian guy playing the dad. I mean, you know, so I'm at least in theater. I think that we are pretty specific.
Agreed.
Okay.
In theater, we definitely are. I think there's a very mixed message in TV.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Mark, I want to get your thoughts also too, and then I was going to piggyback on the question we had because you have working within a season. You as a casting director have a little bit of a different dilemma, for lack of a better word, is that you have to plan all of that and line all up, and you had a veteran British cast and everything. So talk about for a casting director working in a season, putting all the puzzle pieces together and lining it all up and making sure everyone
is. Just FYI, I'm not at Centra Theater Group anymore.
Yes, when you were.
The job was eliminated, which says a lot about what they think about LA actors, but we can't go into that tonight. The big problem with doing a season is you never have enough time to give each project the tender loving care it needs, because you know that Monday you have a new director coming in to start auditions on a new project. So you're always playing catch up. And I think that in some cases, it held me back in terms of bringing in a lot of new people. Because if you have a director for 2 hours, you better hit a home run every time an actor comes in, so it gives us less time to explore. But I want to go back to the diversity issue, because I want to see what my colleagues say about it. My first step with diversity is the initial meeting with the creative team, the playwright if they're alive, the director, of course, if there's an outside producer, whether they will accept non-traditional casting, whether they will accept diversity, because I'll tell you this, I don't want to waste anyone's time. And the most horrifying thing that I had down at the Music Center, and this was dealing with a commercial producer at the Amundsen tonight, the subject of diversity came up, and he said, no blacks. And I was speechless. You know, I didn't even know how to react to it. But I made sure that we hired a black person. When I found out that the producer was not going to be at the final callbacks, we took care of a lot of stuff. And it was a very healthy ethnic mix. But, you know, there's racism out there. And that's why doing race was important. It is not, and it's getting back to the power of the casting director. Sometimes we have a lot of power on a show, and sometimes they want us to set up appointments and shut up. It's important to know that a lot of things are done by committee. Sometimes it's a compromise. Sometimes it depends who's driving the truck.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes we're a huge part of what happens. Certainly with something like what the Butler saw, I just called Joey and said, Frances Barber is living in Los Angeles, and he had lunch with her, and we hired her.
I think it depends on the medium, too. I think that we have less input, perhaps, in television. Will you agree? Yeah, I think we're sort of more to order takers. Yeah, in television.
Like
yeah.
Oh.
You work with lists, and it's like, you know, they're approved lists.
Oh my God, you have no say. I mean, there's absolutely, I can't even, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I work in crazy areas, but that, for me, every year I am definitely popping Klonopin by January 1st. I'm like, pilot season's coming.
In some ways, it's the least creative. But I think theater, I think we have the most voice and perhaps the most creativity.
Yes, and that's what I mean. I think what you were saying is dead on about,
Yeah.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but there is a discussion, and I'm seeing people of race and color out here, and I'm saying that to act like there's not, I mean, there just is.
Yeah.
There just is. And really where it comes in is the micromanagement of high execs and then creatives who are having their first romp and being thrown into the pits, and then they feeling they have to conform in order to ever have another shot to work in TV. It's very, you know, it's not easy. If if Mark wrote a piece and he was being true to himself, and then someone came in and said, you have to cast it this, this, and this way, like, you have to have your lead as an Asian man, or we're not gonna blah, 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 that's discrimination as well.
Yep.
See, we have to be on the same page, because otherwise everybody starts fighting for stupid reasons. The bottom line is, like, he's right. I remember when Jonathan Pryce was put into Miss Saigon,
You
and
bet.
whoa, as the shit hit the storm, right?
Yeah.
And like FDR now, like, would Ali be like, why isn't there a paraplegic in the FDR? You know,
Yeah.
there are certain things that you're like, okay, let's not get into it, right? Like, I'm doing a city conversation at the Wallace coming up, and I actually thought to present to them a whole black cast. Like,
Interesting
would
idea.
they do that?
Yeah.
You know, and I asked my husband, you know, and I'm definitely willing to have the conversation. I just know how the conversation ends up going in TV. And my whole thing is this. Do you know that there's a thing out there sometimes where it's like, oh, don't get, okay. Oh, I always wonder if I can talk. Like how much you can, you know.
I wouldn't use
Make it vague.
last name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't use
just-
Oh,
last
no
names, but make
names,
it
no
vague.
names, just
Yeah.
circumstance. But like, for example, don't hire a black man in that role because he's angry.
Right.
You
The
don't
ba-
want
the
the
black guy
black
can't
man
be
to
the
come
bad
across
guy.
angry. I'm like,
Yeah.
why? My best friend's black and he's angry, and I like that about him. So I'm always perplexed by the idiosyncrasies that happen at a very high level that end up making the entire creative process really stifling. And I really wish the casting directors could get together and just say, enough's enough. You know, I don't think that execs are going into lighting and telling them what to do, or to a costumer and saying that button on her ass looks wrong, change it up, or whatever. And so no, I don't think there's any creativity in TV, quite honestly, unless you're working for HBO or Showtime, unless you are a well-known casting director, unless you're, you know, Marty Scorsese and Ellen Lewis, and you're doing an HBO thing, which is coming out. I bet they had a fucking blast.
Right.
I know that I've done 12 pilots in 9 years. I'm the Susan Lucci of pilots. It never gets picked up. And I'm telling you, every
did
year
win.
it is the worst and worst and worst. And my friend just got a pilot. I was like, I'm busy. I'm not, like, okay, enough. I know that was a rant. Sorry.
You can-
So it's all right.
Sorry. But
It's all right.
So did we come to any answer on that at all?
Well, I think it's because everybody's an expert at casting. You don't overhear the people at the next table in a restaurant talking about the lighting, because it's a technical skill most of us don't have. But you don't have to have a degree to be a casting maven.
Every year with the Bowl, when the musical is finally announced, the blogs start about who should be the cast of this year's musical.
Yep.
It's amazing. And I started reading them going, maybe there's some good ideas in here, you know? I mean, it's possible, you know, so, but it's everybody thinks that they know best how to cast it, yeah, so.
I mean, I'll never forget, I worked on the first Disney theatricals Broadway show, Beauty and the Beast. And when we came back down to our final callbacks for the Broadway company, the execs brought their wives with them. And it was like all bizarre, and we were at Debbie Reynolds in North Hollywood, and they were coming from Burbank, where Disney is, and they got lost.
Oh, of course.
Because they were going out of the country.
I know, totally.
And then they showed up with their wives, who lasted about 20 minutes, thought it was the most boring thing in the whole
course.
world, and went and got in the car and went back to Burbank. The reason I bring it up is it is one of the places where people feel that telling us their opinion, recommending an actor, telling us how bad the actors are that we hired, you know, is an open territory. And you have to be, and this is something some actors get and some actors don't. We have to be thick-skinned the same way you do.
Oh, yeah.
And because rarely do you get thank you. Yeah. And when you do, it's so shocking. I always ask them to repeat it. Because you just don't get it. You know, the standard joke is, if it's a bad cast, we're responsible. If it's a good cast, we had nothing to do with it.
Right. The director cast so-and-so. It's like, what?
But how did you meet that person?
Really, exactly. Those people got up on that stage all by themselves. You know, I always recommend to everybody, if you get a chance to work in casting, you must grab it. Seriously, the first couple of days that I worked in casting, my head was freaking spinning. And I was an actor at the time. I was going, why didn't I know this? All the things that I took so personally, I realized had nothing to do with me, you know? And so, and to just understand the process, you will never take rejection personally again. You will have,
That's exactly
right?
You're right.
Yep, you'll have such a much better perspective of how the business works and whether are you the piece of the jigsaw puzzle that fits? Are you just, you may be brilliant, this brilliant piece. It doesn't, no matter what we do, it doesn't fit into the puzzle. We loved that piece, but it didn't fit in the puzzle. And you get it. You know, and you talk about how we sit there for 8 hours seeing people, right? 8 hours, okay? In an open call, we see 6 people every 20 minutes at an equity open call. Okay, that's a shitload of people. So by the time you're done, you know, I mean, you understand how to do it, and we've been doing it as long as we have, but to understand the exhaustion and what the clients go through and trying to hang on to remembering who people are and all that kind of stuff. So I really, really recommend it. You should really do it.
Just to add to that, as an actor, I think it's so important to think about that and how you can like find loopholes of like something and to learn something out of that, which is this. If you are going in and I'm seeing the role of Dick today and I'm seeing 700 Dicks and okay, I didn't even mean that.
You weren't going to talk about that in public.
I didn't even mean that.
You
I'm
promised.
hearing now
You
how
said
it's going.
that. You
I'm
promised.
seeing that I just put myself in
We
that.
talked
I didn't mean that
about
one.
this. Oh, my God.
Anywho,
It's the internet. It's the internet.
Anywho, but so
Richards.
680
Richards.
of those Richards will all do the same thing. They'll dress right. They'll do the right intonations. They'll find the right blah, blah, blah. But guess what? Those are not the people who get the job. And I think a lot of actors always go out and go back to their agents and say, but I did it. I am that. I look at the breakdown, blah, blah, blah. And what they don't realize is there's a whole other thing going on. About those 20% of the people who do get the job, about why they get the job. I see people, there is the working actor, I always say, and the auditioning actor, and you really have to know the difference. And auditioning is its own craft, especially in TV and film. There aren't directors around anymore. You are always on camera. It is different than being in a room. You used to be able to sell yourself in a room. That's why theater, you still can. I'm looking forward to my open calls. I'm looking forward to be back into that creativity. But when I'm doing TV and film, it is none of that. It is a constant wave of people coming in, me putting them on tape, uploading them for my producer or director. So you have to think about them. Where are they? 10 o'clock at night with a glass of wine, like he said, with his wife, watching you. And guess what? His wife is the one who's going to end up making the decision. I mean, that's how effing crazy it is. So that's why I'm always about be the essence of the character. You know, anyone can direct you. And the only last thing is anger is never funny. Anger is never funny. Okay.
And you know what? What you bring into the room is very contagious. So if you look miserable when you're coming in the room, it's going to affect how we feel about you. Somehow or other, you have to conquer the audition situation early in your career, because unless you become an international star, especially in this country, it is different in England, you're going to be auditioning for your entire professional life. So get used to it, begin to enjoy it, come in prepared, and you know what else? If you don't get the show, go and see who did get the show. It can be an eye-opening experience and make you feel terrific. You know, they hired somebody 20 years older than you, or 6 feet tall, or whatever the situation is. I think it's really good for you to do that part of your homework. See who they liked.
Completely agree. Also, along the lines of that, respect the tone of the room, too. You know, if we're doing a scene about rape, okay, we've been looking at this scene about rape for, 4 or 6 hours. We're beat up, okay? We're totally beat up, and we're trying to just hang on, and you come in and go, hey, how you doing? It's like, are you kidding me? Seriously? I think you have to kind of understand how to come into the room, too, Be yourself, be personable, but also kind of understand what the material may be and what's appropriate for that.
Right. That is so smart.
Thanks.
You had a physical reaction over here about when Mark talked about actors being prepared. I've seen in EPAs actors memorizing their monologue in line at the EPA, and that baffles my mind. So talk about what you've seen on your end about actors being prepared.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, you know, I'm doing this for so long now at this point, I'm thinking about, you're coming in completely unprepared, and I'm thinking about all the actors that I didn't bring in, many of whom are my friends at this point, who I didn't feel were as right as you were for this part, and I brought you in and gave you a shot, and then you're not prepared. And then also as a former actor, I'm going to be your best friend because I was a former actor. I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you every shot at this that I possibly can. But then you didn't respect that shot. You know, now I'm your enemy. I'm absolutely your enemy. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's like we gave you the material ahead of time. We provide the script. We gave you sides. You know, the breakdown is posted, all kinds of information about it. All these people that were on the breakdown, there's no excuse for you not to Google them and find out who they are and know something about them, know something about me. There's all kinds of things that you can do before you come into the room, and you didn't do any of that. So, it renders me speechless, which is very rare, but it does.
Also, it's part of your job.
Yeah.
Like, I have a job, you have a job. Your job is to every year set goals for yourself and figure out the top 3 TV shows you should be in, who's casting them. I'm going to see who their associates are. I'm going to take those workshops. I'm going to go be for those people. And when I'm taking their workshops, I'm going to do material like they do. Like, I had somebody come and do Shakespeare the other day. I was like, I wouldn't touch Shakespeare. Like, I'm from Jersey Mafia. I'm never going to cast a Shakespearean play unless it's Jersey Mafia, which could be really interesting. Like Ariel's Tony Soprano. That's right. Remember her from A Midsummer's Night
I like
Dream.
it.
Yeah. And
I'm thinking, who's Puck? I got who's Puck now.
You
Wait,
are
who's playing
totally.
Puck?
Or Mark. Mark could be a great Puck.
Mark would be a great Puck.
You would be a great Puck.
A great Puck.
Orpher only.
Tone is really important. You're right.
Yeah.
I just want to can I tell one really quick story
Please,
that I love about
absolutely.
theater, because we were talking about theater. Here's my favorite story, and it taught me everything about actors. I thought, my friend Joe Rosetto was doing a play, and he asked me to come down, and I did, into a theater, and it was a 20-seat theater, and there were 3 of us, and I was like, this sucks. I can't even believe it. And I just thought, oh, it's 7 o'clock. And then the lights went down, and the stage went up, and it was Al Pacino sitting in a chair doing Salome in front of me, and I was like, you there. And then Estelle Parsons came down the way, and then Jessica Chastain came out, and it was the 3 of them performing for me, and 2 other people. And because I wanted to just go back about why 99 seat is so important. That's those 2, and she's so fucking amazing. And she was like, oh, we've been working on this for 10 years, and then they ended up going into Tribeca and doing a film about it, and I just thought, there's the real fight. Like, if they want to fight about a 99-seat theater, because, you know, it's hard to have a voice when you don't have a voice yet, but they do, and that's a really good reason as to why we need to keep these things going, and also just as actors to know that they're still working it, like, then you need to be working it. And let me tell you, most of your peers are deft at what they do. Like, the abundance of talent in this town is not lacking.
Yeah.
And may I also just say 2 more things. If you're a writer, write. Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon are all new networks, and they need content. And like Oprah, hello, she's still doing films and like hiring Tyler Perry because it takes a lot of content to make a network. And so if you're a writer, start writing for yourself. And multimedia is everything. It sucks. I know, I'm almost 50. I hate it. But you have to do it.
You can clap that out, yeah. So we're going to dabble into some questions from the audience here as we keep chatting. Sebastian has a question. Sometimes you see on breakdowns casting directors saying only submit for 1 role. He has a question is, for you guys, if there's multiple roles that an actor fits, are you cool with them submitting more than once?
There's always going to be 1 role that fits better, which means reading the script.
But sometimes the script is not always available, so I do understand that in a new script. I'm okay with it, but I have to tell you what a lot of actors do is they'll submit like in 6 roles, and it's like, you're not right for 6 roles. Did you look at this at all? You know, we're also not stupid. We can move you to another role. We have a thing that just says switch role right on the thing, and we can do that. You know, so maybe 2, but beyond that, it's like I think.
And you can come into an audition room and say, I've prepared the sides for Jill and Betty.
Yeah.
And hopefully the director will say, let's start with Betty.
Sure. on my forums, I always say roles you are interested in being considered for. So if there's more than one role you want to be considered for, write it down. Sure. But I think, and also, the other thing that I know other cast nerds get pissed about is when you're submitted by your agent and you also submit yourself. Do you hate that?
I have no pet peeves.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Not
I'm
a
okay
pet
with that.
peeve.
I'm okay with that in theater because a lot of times I know your agent is not going to submit you. You probably figure your agent is not going to submit you, so you submit it yourself. That's okay. So.
People don't like to touch. I do know that. A lot of people don't like to shake hands. They get really freaked
Yeah, it's
by
obnoxious,
it.
isn't it?
It's very weird.
I know, but you have to understand how many people in a day.
I know. I guess it's.
We
very
just
weird.
put Purell on the table.
That's what
Yeah,
I
but
do.
even then-
I do too. I'm like, I like to shake
But
hands.
I think there's something alienating if somebody wants to shake your hand.
And you're like, no.
If the director,
I'm sick.
offers his or her hand to you, then absolutely, okay. But other than that, I think you should leave them alone. You know, they also need to have that space. They need to be objective. You know, I often refer to the table as the Last Supper. You know, it's like that. It's that long table with everybody. It's extremely intimidating. But they also kind of need that little bit of a, you know, don't come too close because I just want to like not invest in you personally. I just want to look to you and decide, are you the right person for my project? And so, you know, and but the flip side of that is if you walk in and you know people in the room, don't be afraid to say hi. It's a little weird that you don't say hi to somebody, you know? So, but
It's about being honest.
yeah, that's ultimately what we want. We want truth, right? So that's ultimately what we want.
Question here regarding if there isn't enough information out there, is that inappropriate for an actor to email to follow up with more information? Because there's always like actors feel like we shouldn't email casting directors, and there's times where they shouldn't. But when's appropriate times for? What's appropriate, if appropriate? There's times for you to be contacted by actors.
All right, so well, like okay, it depends. You think it's okay?
I think it's more than okay. If you have an intelligent question that I can answer,
Keyword,
you're going to do a
intelligent.
better
Okay.
audition.
If it's an intelligent question, sure. But a lot of times the questions are like, they're ridiculous. And they're just a chance to try to build some sort of relationship. And I think you're actually doing the opposite. Okay? So if you have a representative, you have an agent or a manager, and that's how you got in, that's how everything should come to me. It should not be coming from you, okay? If I brought you in through Actors Access, that's another story. Okay, then I brought you in directly. Of course you can contact me directly. Other than that, I think you have to understand that, I don't know about you guys, I get like 400 emails a day. It's crazy. So, you know, for an actor to think it's okay to email me on something about, you know, a hangnail that you have that day, I don't have time to do that. I don't want to be rude, okay, but it's just I don't have time. So.
If you email me and you don't hear back, then that's okay too. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? Like I don't like I try to not, because I'm like him. I would try to feel, because we always try to want to. We're so multitaskers that as soon as we get something, we want to like, yes, and like immediately get back to you.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, I'm so sorry. I don't trash them, but I'm just like, if I can't get to it, then I don't, and I just assume that the actor understands that.
Because it's all time sensitive.
It is.
it
Everything
is.
is.
Yeah.
This question's from Pauline. Pauline out there, say hi, Pauline. Hey, Pauline.
Hi, Pauline.
She has questions. She's non-equity, non-SAG trained, non-SAG-AFTRA member, and she wants to get involved in theater. Which
Great.
can
Open
you-
calls, girl.
Yep.
The thing about it is, except for like when they're doing when the Music Center has a open call for their season or Pasadena Playhouse, those calls are very well attended. But individual shows are sometimes unbelievably poorly attended. I did a 4-hour open call recently for ICT, and I saw 27 people. That's horrible.
And
okay.
it's an opportunity to start seeing a lot of the 99-seat shows in the city
Right.
and see what appeals to you, and then find out how they do their casting.
Right. So what you do for an open call is they'll start a list for the non-equity people, okay, and then they would just filter you in. When we run out of equity people who get top priority, then we just filter you in. And in a lot of going back to the Hollywood Bowl is a perfect example. Up to what is a certain percentage of my cast every year, but it was 6 out of a recent show had to be non-union, not non-equity, had to be non-union. Okay, meaning
means what?
couldn't be SAG-AFTRA, couldn't be AGBA, had to be non-union across the board. So I, in earnest, am looking every year for non-union people very seriously looking, okay? And what happens is you get EMC points, you know about that? Okay, so you should look into that, equity membership candidate points, and you build towards getting your equity card. It's a little complicated, but you can look that up, and you should absolutely take advantage of the open calls. I mean that, guys. I'm dead serious about this. It shocks me that people don't show up for these things, okay? I know I'm making my open calls swell as a result. I'm okay with that. I would rather see more people, okay?
And it's tremendous fun for us when you really do discover someone who's
love
terrific.
it. It's so
Especially from an open
God,
call.
right?
And
It's
it's really
so
exciting.
exciting. You have
It
no idea. It's just like, oh my God, who are you? We love you.
And there's no pressure.
Right.
Because, like, you don't have an agent that you have to worry about calling afterwards to tell them how you did. And you can just go. And if you kick butt, it's great. And if not, no one knows the better. And we're not expecting anything.
Right.
Like, we're not, because we're not stressed either. That we didn't call these people in. We don't feel the responsibility when they show up of going, shit, like, do they like my taste? Do they not like my taste?
Yeah.
It's a kind of cool experience, actually.
It absolutely
I
is.
might do one.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this topic for a minute. Say, because of the various open calls, they're doing monologues, and you may see them, a couple times in a year.
I almost never do monologues. I
You do scenes, yes.
I hate monologues.
Me too.
So I would much rather. What I'll do in an open call for me is I'll put out a very short set of sides so arrive early, look at the sides, and you do those. Because why don't we just cut to the chase? This is what I'm casting.
Yeah.
Great, you can do whoever from Shakespeare, but I'm casting a contemporary, drama, and I don't need you to do Shakespeare for this. So I would rather just see what you can do with the current material. Because even if you're not a terribly experienced actor, but you can make this material work, then I'm good.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah. So monologues to me, we do use them in seasonal open calls. I know because it's just a time thing. Yeah. So I think they're a necessary.
Just remember,
evil.
if you're forced to do monologue, even that has to be appropriate to the
Thank you.
theater you're working with.
Do your homework. What shows are listed in the season? Why are you doing something that's not? If they're not doing a Shakespeare, why are you doing a Shakespeare? It doesn't make any sense, And then also choosing things that are right for you. I taught a class at UCLA last week, and this guy comes in and does a monologue who's a 39-year-old man. I said, how old are you? He says, 21. I said, and you're doing a 39-year-old man. I said, you don't know anything about being 39, right? So, and I mean, he was like shocked. I said, all the material that we do, monologues or whatever, they are commercials for the product that you have to offer. So what is the product that you have to offer? Let me see quickly what I'm buying, okay? So if you know what you're right for and you know how to market yourself, if you will, with an appropriate monologue, then we know what to do with you quickly. Make sense? Okay, I'm not trying to put you in, yeah.
Show us what you do better than anybody else.
And don't show us what you can't do. Do I have any musical people in here? Musical theater people in here? Okay. Why do you choose a song that's beyond your range? Why do you choose notes that you don't really sing well? Why don't you come in and sing something you sing the crap out of, okay, and leave us totally impressed?
Definitely. Less is more. Do you do a lot of those workshops? I don't, but I know that people do them. And I have done them in the past. I used to do them. And I know sometimes people would come in and do 5 pages. And you just think, I don't need 5 pages. He doesn't need, he needs 5 seconds. He needs 5 seconds. I might need like 10 because I'm way behind them. But like.
It's okay, John.
I know, I'm so honored. You have no idea. And, and that's true. No, it's very true. But you don't want to overeat. It's too much, Also about talking, I'm already sick of hearing myself. Can you, when you walk into a room too, sometimes you're so interesting that you're more interesting than the material.
Oh, yeah.
And I also, really quickly too, I wanted to say, I held auditions one time where they were 2 lines and people couldn't get them. Now, I find that, because usually I give actors breaks, but that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Find something else to do then, because that, I think, is where people get, that's the crisscross. He's right. I would love to know a lot of actors, but the problem is that a lot of times people don't, like what Michael's saying, I think, is, there are people that you want to help, and then there's other people, I know we've been stalked. I know that there's been, guys that come, they'll bring you Greek food at 1 o'clock every day and sit, in the office, and what do you do?
Yep.
What do you do? I don't know. I've seen people bring knives into auditions, when they're, we cast a Wolverine and somebody came in with a knife this big, and we were sitting in the room thinking, oh my goodness,
I got hurt at an
You want to think. You just want to think about things before you present yourself when you're coming into a room. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of egos and attitude, and most of it isn't with your casting people. You know, we're placating producers and writers and directors, and things that used to take 6 months take 6 weeks now. So everyone's pressured, and it's a percolator.
We're on your side. You are
Always.
Absolutely.
You are a welcome
Always.
guest at the party. You are not crashing. We are happy to see you. If you get a call back, if you get cast, you've solved a problem for us, and it's all good.
We should also let's talk about money for a second. Maybe this will help, okay? For theater, as a rule, we get a flat fee, okay? The faster we cast it, we made more money, okay? If we have to keep casting and casting and casting and casting, we're making less and less and less and less money, right? Television is different, right? We're getting paid per episode, stuff like that. So we are very happy when you're brilliant in an early audition.
Most certainly.
One of the guys we hired in What the Butler Saw, by the way, came to me through an open call.
Fantastic.
And, you know, he was odd and quirky and hard to cast, but I kept his picture and resume and thought, someday we'll be able to use him.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the other thing, too. That's a very good point. You need to stop thinking of your auditions as for this job and start thinking of them as for your career.
Definitely.
Because the three of us are going to remember you. We're doing a lot of things all the time. I mean, you know, we're not just doing one job. I mean, I'm doing like 12 things right now, okay? So I saw you for this and went, no, he's not right for this, but I love him for that thing I'm doing in January. And then, you know, you go into the file for January or into the file that's somewhere up back here. So if you think about that, it takes a little bit of the pressure off in some ways. And it also, this whole thing that we do as actors, I didn't get that job. But what you did was you made a fantastic impression. And the casting office now is going to bring you in again and again until we find something that you're
And
right for.
we're going to look for something
And we are.
for you.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have, in that kind of record-keeping way, are you all digital? Do you still love keeping headshots? Kind of how do you?
I'm digital.
I'm digital.
I'm
All digital?
all the way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Save a
impossible.
tree.
Yeah. Don't be
Puppetry.
even like sending headshots and at this point it's like I don't know. I mean, it's so
The cards
random.
too. I'd love to
I
know
like
your
postcards.
I'd love to know your thing on that.
The face postcards, forget
I
it.
feel so bad. Somebody sent something the other day, 8 of them, to like 8 different people in the office. I was like, don't you see that when you're putting the?
Yeah.
Don't you see 606? Like, oh, I just wrote 606 8 times.
Yeah. I like postcards. So
You do?
yeah, I do. I do. I like postcards because it's a very quick way for me to go through and just kind of see
Who's doing what.
and then if there's things that you're inviting me to, I put them on a bulletin board and go to as many things as I can. So, but that's okay. I mean,
That's really good.
the other thing, here's a real interesting hint about that. I don't know about you guys, but I used to get, you know, those bins at the post office, those white bins of mail. I used to get like 2 of those a day, okay? And now I get 20 pieces of mail a day. So ironically, snail mail is I'm saying is maybe effective now because now I actually
Get less.
Now
read.
you watch it because there's so
There's
little
so
now.
little.
Understood.
You look at all of it. You know what I mean? Before it was overwhelming, and a lot of casting offices would just throw that stuff out. You know, so I don't know. I think postcards are worth it. I think it's harder to ignore just glancing through, you know, a dozen postcards in a day as to opening envelopes and pulling out a picture. I mean, so I think that seems old-fashioned, and I think that's gone. So.
Joni, where's Joni in the room? Joni. Hey, Joni. Oh, hey, Joni. This is for Beth. Joné.
Joné,
I'm sorry.
see? That's right.
Joné.
Joné.
There's an accent there. I ignored it. I'm sorry. This is for Beth. She wants to know, from your point of view, how do you attribute the huge success of Spring Awakening? What did you, in your experience working with it, why do you think it got the traction that it did and it became?
I just think the director's a visionary. I think it's everything about our director. I really just trust in him, and I think that he just knew what he was doing. And we're just blessed to be on the ride with him.
I agree.
Yeah,
He's sensational.
he's sensational.
You know, the director is somebody else, too. They'll remember you really well. I mean, sometimes, you know, when I'm starting a new job, I will often get a list of people that a director wants to see. This is mostly in theater. And a lot of times it'll be somebody like, you know that guy that we saw for that job like 6 months ago? I thought he was great, blah, 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 blah. And the director remembers you. Carrie. Can I tell my Carrie story? You know, by the way, Carrie closes Sunday. If you haven't seen Carrie the musical, you must see it. It's amazing. Please see it. Anyhow, I'll make it quick. We started it 2 years ago. It was going to be a workshop at that point. It got stalled. Long story, didn't happen then. But so when we started it back up, the director says to me, "There was that girl that we saw, for the workshop the first time. I really liked her, and I thought, wow, I haven't seen her in a long time. I wonder where she's been." So I call her agent, and her agent says, "Oh, she's left the business." I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's too bad." And I had cast her already in something else, so I thought, no, she's pretty good. I don't know why that happened. So anyhow, the director says, "Well, will you see if you can follow up?" I'm like, "Sure." Long story short, we find her working on a pig farm in Vermont. I'm dead serious. A pig farm in Vermont, okay? But I'll do a tape. So she sends the tape in, and the tape is very well received. Okay, now mind you, the director has met her in person, but nobody else has. So the producers and the director get together, and they send out a notice through me that they want her to do the tape again, but do some modifications on it. She breaks into her high school gym, puts on a floor-length white gown at 8 o'clock in the morning, and does one of the most amazing tapes I've ever seen, and they booked her as the lead in Carrie without having met her. And she is fucking amazing.
Is she going back to the pig farm?
And
She's not. No, we're getting her at the Wallace. I'm stealing her as soon as we're done with this conversation.
Emily Lopez is her name. Trust me, you're going to hear more and more from her. And go see her. She's amazing. And her cover, Tiana Okoye, is also fabulous. And she is the first black Carrie. So that's kind of cool, too. Yeah.
That certainly is a great example of the fact that if you're good, we remember it. And I say we collectively.
Can you, I want to double click on that if I can about the self-taping. Is self-taping for theater, are they looking for something different? Is it still kind of the medium close-up like for a film or television? Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it different for everyone?
I think it's different per project too.
Yeah.
I know. I love when we do film. I love when people self-tape because a lot of the bigger actors, they go full out. They hire their friends. They go and they film themselves. They film the scene, and I've seen people just kick ass and do amazing things. And the director is so taken aback by the effort, the thought, the ingenuity that then allows him to know that he has an actor that he can really be malleable and work with, That's the other thing. Don't ever, if you can improv a little in a room, I'm always, as long as it's okay. And like, if they say you can, because people take lines from actors all the time. It's important to stay creative. You don't want to block yourself off. I think self-tapes are everything nowadays. We cast as many people off self-tapes as we do having them in the room.
You bet.
So I think it's just really good to know that and to know who you are. Here's a good, really quick example. We had a famous actress who put herself on tape, and guess what she forgot? The other person talking, which was so odd because so then it was like, I know what you're saying. That's right. And you're like, wow, it's so fucking weird. So, she didn't get it. She didn't get the job. So you want to definitely have somebody talking on the other. You'd think these things were simple, though. And no one's trying to be demeaning. I think people always think casting people are being demeaning, like, well, duh, Beth, But you'd be surprised at how many people, like, it happens. Or the shot is so wide. Yeah. In film and TV, everything's with the eyes. Everything. See, there, you're right. With theater, totally different. Totally different situation, especially when you're singing. Because a lot of people just now hire pianists. That's how I get a lot of tapes recently. I noticed that. I know these gentlemen can speak a lot more, especially with musicals and what's...
It's incredible how many people we've cast from tape for a variety of reasons. I cast an entire show at the Amundsen with tape because the director could only be in Los Angeles for 1 week. Equity said, you don't have enough time to do your required calls, so therefore you can't do auditions. Right. So she went back to London, which is far away, and I put everybody on tape.
Of course. The other thing about tape, too, is be careful what the background is. It should be very neutral. Okay, it shouldn't be distracting. A recent tape that I got, a person standing in front of a bookcase filled with books. And the tape was kind of boring, and I found myself looking to see what was even on the bookshelf.
Also, you want to dress the role.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
going out for an executive and you come in looking like a surfer, dude. I'm sorry, like,
Yeah.
because here's the deal. It's not that we can't see that you could be that,
clients
but
can't see
your
it.
clients,
They can't see it.
Yeah.
And don't costumes are too much, but at least a sense of what it might be, you know.
A
And,
sense.
and also because everything is almost everything's on camera these days. I mean, dress for camera. Don't be dressing in some crazy pattern or, you know, with some logo or anything. Think camera. Think what colors are good for your hair, your skin, your
Girls,
eyes,
yeah,
you know.
Girls, hair out of your eyes. Your
Yeah,
eyes are everything.
guys
It's the whole
too. Get your
story.
hair out of your eyes. I mean, it's, you know, think about all those things.
Next time you get a check for a holiday or your birthday, get the best haircut and dye job you can.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing we see when you walk in the room.
Yeah.
And you have to look good. Even if you don't have any interest in fashion or you don't have any interest in style, tough. Everybody else does. And that's what you're competing against. And if it's just not in your world, find your most stylish friend and ask them
Ask
to take
them.
you shopping.
Exactly. Beige people shouldn't wear beige. Brown people shouldn't wear brown. You know, you disappear. Think about it, right? When you wear a certain color, don't people say to you, "Oh, you look so great today"? Great. It's that kind of thing. So pay attention to that. That's the color that you pop with. You know, what colors look good on camera, right? Think about all that stuff. It's very
Stripes do
important.
weird shit on film.
Stripes are terrible on
Stripes
camera.
do really weird
They
shit.
do
It
this.
makes you go like
Yeah.
this when you're
It-
watching you. I
it
don't know why
vibrates.
no one
I
ever
know.
tells an actor that. Don't wear stripes.
Overly bright
Either way.
colors. White people do not wear bright colors. You look terrible in them,
Also,
okay?
if you're a color, make sure that you're well lit in a room, and don't feel weird about asking.
If you're
Am I-
particularly
am I
dark,
lit
are you,
well?
are
If
you
you're-
lit well?
If you
Yeah.
are of a dark color, I'm not kidding. I buy my own lights because I try to respect every actor who comes in and make sure that people can. But, you know, these are things that we shouldn't feel weird about, you know, discussing and talking about to help one another.
Yeah.
You're a freelancer, so are we. We lose jobs way easier than you.
Where did you cut the shot too? You know, it can be weird. Women with where the boobs are in the shot. You know, all that kind of stuff too. Think about that
I
stuff. You know.
tend to do a full body for the slate and then waist up for the scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like here.
Yeah. I think for film, you're probably there.
Yeah.
Okay. For theater, I think you're a little
You're a
wider.
little wider.
And certainly for singing, we don't want to be like way on top of you for singing. So.
I think we need to make a bumper sticker, Beth, from your quote, stripes do weird shit.
Stripes do weird shit.
Create a
But
bumper
it's
sticker.
true.
It
T-shirt.
is. Don't,
Absolutely
that's
true.
why. Every actor needs to have that bumper
Absolutely
sticker.
true.
You know what? And if you're not sure, self-tape yourself at home and see what you look
Yeah.
like
What?
after you got your hair cut and dye job.
Right. If we were all wearing gray against this background, that's terrible, right? You just disappear. You got to think about what's behind you too. So be very conscious of all that stuff.
What shows have you seen or are excited to see in the near future, LA theater-wise, or even New York? What shows did you
Well,
recently
I
see?
mentioned Carrie.
You
I'm
mentioned Carrie.
terribly excited about Carrie.
Casting The Revisionist, Jesse Eisenberg's play at the Wallace. I'm excited to cast that, and I'm excited to see what these two men are doing next in theater.
I'm doing my apartment.
Wait, are the apartment or your apartment?
Yeah, my apartment.
I
We
love
just
that,
finished
the
casting Closer Than Ever today, so that cast will be announced probably tomorrow. Very excited about that. I've got so many things coming up. Some of them I can't talk about yet. Some of them I
Don't
can't
talk
talk
about
about yet. There's a lot of things coming down the pike, so we're very excited. One
It's
I'm very
it's
excited
a
about.
very busy theater season in
Yes,
LA.
It is.
And
Very busy.
it's your responsibility to go out and see some things.
Yeah. I have the whole season at ICT, which is a very eclectic and varied season. I've got a couple things at Pasadena Playhouse. There's a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
virtually everything I do is in breakdown and actors access. Okay, I honestly want to meet new people. Every session that I do has people I've never met. It's a commitment that I make. Every session that I do has people I've never met.
I think we should end it on this. You guys are rock stars.
We get overtime.
I do. I rant, and then I'm quiet.
She's great, isn't she? I love her.
You guys are gonna go on the road. The three of you should go take the road. We talked a lot about, especially in the middle, about stuff that's hard or frustrating. I want to end with what gets you up in the morning every time to do this job. What you've done for many years, and every time you get up and go, "This is why I do this."
Because it's a different challenge every day. It's a different set of actors. We are always working on multiple projects, and so we need different actors for different projects. And so waking up and getting ready to go to the office is the challenge of what's next.
Yeah, I just think it's like a playground. It's so fun, right? You just wake up. It's not brain surgery. So for me, it's just always introducing. Like he said, you have to like people. I like introducing people. I feel like we're a middleman of sorts. You know, like, hey, you know when certain vibes get together. So I think good casting people know how to put a good cast of people together. It's not always so much with theater a lot. I used to know this because I used to travel out on the road. I used to love the casting directors who cast this one show that I did, Grease, and I thought, how did he know to get these people together? They're still friends 20 years later. And that's a good casting where you're building friendships with people. I love being on Facebook and seeing actors and directors show pictures after you've cast them and they're friends. And they're hanging out and you're like, oh, right. And giving people a chance, making a dream come true. For as stressful as pilot season is, when it's a new person, like I remember casting Jesse Tyler Ferguson in The Class. He was a kid who was just a Broadway kid. We saw him in a show. We bought him out. Jim Brose was like, that kid's a fucking star. He made like nothing compared to the other people. And he was the happiest person on the set. I think we get confused sometimes about what's important and what's not important. I do theater, not for the money, but I also don't do fucking TV and film for the money either. I have 2 gorgeous kids, and I do it because, same reason you do, I love to be creative. We're really lucky that we get to do that. Even this, I mean, how could we begrudge each other a moment in time? There's a lot of shit going on in the world, so I think we're very lucky to be able to express ourselves both in things like race, and things like Spring Awakening, and then things like Hair, where you're like, I'm gonna be naked and drunk and party on stage and enjoy it, It's just, it's all those things.
Presenting opportunities, I guess, is the thing that gets me going every day. Knowing what I went through as an actor, and if somebody gave me a break, and now I'm that person who can give an actor a break, that's unbelievably exciting for me. To find somebody who I really believe in and then bring them to a producer and director, and the producer and director goes, yes. That honestly is as exciting as it was when I booked a job as an actor, and I mean that sincerely.
All that has to happen is whoever's sitting next to me leans over and says, I really like her.
Like,
we know that
I'm
good
good.
things are
I'm
going to happen.
The cool thing,
You
right?
still get excited too, don't
We
you?
totally get
Absolutely.
excited. Something happens in the room. It's really, have you noticed? You see this thing where people are slightly sitting forward. Okay, and I'm like going, and here we go. And the temperature in the room slightly changes, and the hair in my arm starts to go, and I go, okay, we got it. We're good. This is it. This is it. It's very exciting.
I think that's a great place to end. Let's give him a hand to say thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.